Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and I am here to kick off a new reading vlog, letting my Prompt Ball TBR game help pick my reads for the Dungeons and Book Dragons Readathon. It is Sunday evening and I'm just about ready to put on my PJs, crawl in bed, and just relax and do maybe a little bit of reading, maybe watching some TV for the rest of the evening. But we did just get our new quest for the Dungeons and Book Dragons Readathon. This is a readathon that is going on for the full month of November. It is brought to us by Ivy at Ivy the Geek Goddess, and it is a Dungeons and Dragons style readathon, as you might have guessed from the name. And I am on Team Rogues. Every 5 or so days, we get a new main quests that we need to fulfill, and then we have up to 8 side quests to choose from to optionally complete after we have the main quest done. So I did one round of the quest and side quests using dice to pick which prompts I'm going to do, and this time I'm going to try something I haven't really done exactly before, and I'm going to pull some additional prompts from my game and try to make it match the quest and the side quests. If it doesn't work, we'll see what happens. I think I can make it mainly work. If I can't make it work for the main quest, and if it doesn't quite go smoothly, we'll see. A little bit of chaos is to be assumed. So with that, I should probably tell you what we're starting off with. For the third quest of the readathon, we are entering the Hall of Echoes, and our prompt for the main quest is to read a book with a dark atmosphere, a dark setting, or a mysterious feeling, something along those lines, something that gives foreboding. And I think that definitely is something that's up to some interpretation and should wind up pairing quite well with many different prompts in this prompt ball machine. So without further ado, we are going to grab our little questing chest and pull out a quarter and see what prompt we get to work with to kick things off. All right, I feel the need to tell you this is yellow ball. It really doesn't matter in this particular instance, but when I play my game, the colors can matter. All right, this one is relatively vague. It doesn't necessarily say dark to me, but it could work. And it's to find a cover that has flowers on it. So I need a dark or mysterious book with flowers on the cover. All right, I actually found something much faster than I expected to. I have picked up Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. This is a very dark cover. There are definitely flowers. We've got a bloody sprayed edge, and based on what it says on the back, it is set in 1887 Netherlands. Lucy's sister Sarah is unwell. She refuses to eat, mumbles nonsensically, and is increasingly obsessed with a centuries-old corpse recently discovered on her husband's estate. She's been diagnosed with temporary insanity caused by a fever of the brain. Her sister is trying to protect her from a lunatic asylum and must unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's condition. So we definitely have some darkness, I think. We definitely have mysterious, and we definitely have flowers on the cover. So I think this will be a perfect pick. I do have this copy that I received in a Nightworm subscription, I believe, and my library has plenty of copies of the audiobook available if I want to immersion read or switch to audio while I'm commuting tomorrow. So this will be my quest book, and then we will see what we wind up doing in terms of other prompts. So definitely a darker week we have going on here. Also matches the fact that my lighting at the moment is definitely on the darker side. Like I said, it is late at night already, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the prompt ball machine gives us and what we wind up reading. So with that, I will go ahead, get going on my book, and check back in with you really soon. It is a little bit later. I have been laying in bed reading and playing around on my phone and realized that I'm already 40% into my book. I don't know exactly where I am, but I just hit part 2, so I figured it was a good stopping point for now, because I also realized that the rate I'm going in this is very fast, and therefore I will need probably another prompt before I finish my day tomorrow. So midway thoughts on this one. I'm having a good time with it. I think it is playing on vampirism in an interesting way. We've got quotes in here from Bram Stoker. I just saw the with the Nightworm, you typically get a signature plate, and I really, really like the signature with the little vampire happy face on it. That's cute. That distracted me, though. Anyway, we have this sister, Lucy, who has received a letter basically saying her sister's really unwell. And her sister, Sarah, has a history of mental health issues, and their family in general, I think, does as well. So she's summoned by her sister's husband to come help, basically. And what we find out through a series of letters that are included in the text from Sarah to her sister is that they found a body on the property, and it was a body that had been preserved to some extent in a bog. There are some peculiarities about this body. There's a rock stuck in its mouth. There's pieces missing. There's just weirdness going on here, but there's also something compelling about this body for Sarah, and she becomes rather obsessed with it. And eventually she seems to have gone mad with some sort of a brain fever. She's not acting herself. She's very distraught. By the time Lucy gets there, it's really dire. And things have taken a turn. That's why we're going into part 2, so I don't want to say too much at this point, but I'm liking this. It's perfectly dark atmosphere. I think the reader knows what's going on to some extent, more so than the characters themselves know, because, you know, when there's quotes from Bram Stoker of a Dracula type nature, you start to make some leaps into why things are bloody. It is definitely gory. It has its moments of disturbing nature, and I think it's handling all of this really well. Historical, not generally my thing right now, but historical horror can work for me, and it's working for me here. I like the discussions of mental health because there is a legitimate mental health history with this family and some of the impacts on them and society and so forth. So yeah, I'm really curious to see where the second half of this is really going to take it. There are like a few humorous moments. There's just generally, I like the characters. They're twin sisters. There's definitely a solid bond there. Lucy makes some decisions I don't approve of. The men in here, not necessarily always the best, and always being the most appropriate, maybe, is the right way to phrase that. But anyway, having a great time with this. So I am 100% positive I will be able to submit this probably by the time I get to work tomorrow, or certainly by the time I get home from work tomorrow. So with that long little bit of ramble, I am going to pull back up our side quest prompts so we can figure out which side quest we are going to be doing first with one of our prompt balls. All right, here we go. Okay, this is an easy one. Continue a series. Now, the problem with continuing a series, I actually have a couple that I already downloaded that I figured maybe I'd even do on the side from this vlog. So I have two options, and I think the one I'm going to go with is read a book that delves into zombies, death, or decay, because I am in the middle of a zombie series. It's one of the series that I need to continue for my hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, Challenge Yourself Challenge. The series is Rotten Ruin by Jonathan Marbury, and the book that I'm on is Flesh and Blood, I believe. This is a YA zombie series. It is set in a zombie post-apocalypse almost world, and we are following main characters who are young. They are just kind of starting to explore the outer world beyond kind of the safety barriers, and I don't know how much necessarily I'll be able to say about the plot of this one since we are on book 3 in a series. So I will definitely be reading this one. I think I'm going to pull one more prompt while I'm sitting here, just in case I feel like this isn't a book I can talk to you guys about, so I can also start a book that I can talk to you guys about. It's really hard to say a whole lot about series books, so probably I won't give you midway thoughts on that one. So that's my excuse for getting to pull one more prompt. Well, okay, Kylie gets to pick. She is kind of asleep for now. So I think what I'm going to do is figure out what options I'm going to give her, and then I will give her those options in the morning and film that separately and let you know there what it's going to be. So give me a minute and I will be back. Okay, I grabbed 4 books to give to Kylie as choices in the morning. Honestly, they were the first 4 I found. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. But I've got Blood Will Tell, which definitely has a dark cover. I would say an ominous title. And this is by Heather Chavez. It says it's a twisty novel about the bond between 2 sisters and the crimes one covers up to protect the other. So thinking it's definitely got some darkness to it. I've got The Death of Us by Lori Rader Day. I think this works for ominous title. And this one says, one rainy night 15 years ago, a knock at the door changed Liz Kehoe's life forever. On that night, Liz's longtime rival Ashley handed over her infant son and was never heard from again. 15 years later, they find her, meaning Ashley's car, in the lake, and it raises a bunch of questions. For the prompt about confronting the past, I think The Silent Sister by Diane Chamberlain would work. This one has a character named Riley who spent her entire life believing her older sister committed suicide as a teenager. Now, more than 20 years later, her father father has passed away, and when cleaning out his house, she finds evidence that what she has always believed is not the truth. And lastly, another one for an ominous title, I have Peter Miles Has to Die by Katie Cullum, an emotional what would you do thriller debut about revenge, the bonds of friendship, the reverberations of small-town crime, and the limits of justice. So these will be Kylie's picks. I will, of course, show you which one she picks in the morning. Okay, we have our 4 books. We have our very eager puppy and my new bedding, just FYI. And we have treats on each of the books. So, are you ready, buddy? Set, go. Ooh, she went for The Death of Us by Lori Raider Day. And we're going to ignore the part where she started to go before I said it was okay, because she's cute. Hello again. I have some updates for you, and I'm sitting here because we are going to pull another prompt. But first, I finished Blood on Her Tongue on my way to work this morning. Overall, I still really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm holding this awkwardly because I have a doggy in my lap. But anyway, the book overall I enjoyed. It definitely amps up the gore in the second half, and there were definitely some cringe-worthy moments. And if you're sensitive to eyeball content, I would in particular caution you around this one. But the blood on the side there comes naturally. I overall liked the kind of female forward story going on in here. I enjoyed the tone and the atmosphere. There were some places more so toward the middle and the second half of the book middle that felt a little bit slow to me. There were definitely things that made me mad because the men in here are pretty deplorable. They do some bad stuff. I definitely could side with the female rage and revenge kind of mission going on in here that comes up. So overall, I did have a good time with this one, and it's definitely one that's sticking in my brain throughout the day. So I'm giving this 4 stars, and this started off the day pretty well. I did not get a ton of reading time in today. I did start Flesh and Bone by Jonathan Mawberry during my workday while I was getting some stuff done. Mostly I spent the day kind of editing a few things that needed editing, and of course, doing my job. But beyond that, on the way home, I started the book that our dear Kylie picked for me, The Death of Us, and I listened to it for the full length of the drive home, which got me through 15 to 20%, somewhere in there. And unfortunately, it's just not hooking me. We start the book with our main character getting a call from her son, technically her adopted son. There's been an accident and no one's hurt, but in the process of this accident, they've discovered a car in the quarry. There's a quarry on their property. It's very dangerous. People are told to stay away from it, including obviously her son knows he's not supposed to be there, but they're there. They see this car under the water, barely under the water, and quickly identify it as belonging to her son's mother. And the relationships are a little murky in my head and a little convoluted in general. I believe our main character's ex-husband is the boy's actual biological father. Her son's biological mother was her arch enemy, the woman that her ex-husband had a baby with, and it was like a one-night stand almost situation kind of thing. I don't know. It's honestly messy. They are living there on this property, which I gather belongs to the ex-husband's family because the ex-husband's parents also live like right next door. Like I said, it's a little bit messy, and I feel like this is just kind of living in the realm of almost domestic drama over necessarily a thriller mystery as much. I don't know. The idea is that the boy's biological mother stopped by the house one day. Makes more sense now that I know that her husband is the biological father, but hands over the kid and then drives off and disappears and is never seen again. They really quickly come to this understanding that this car in the water must be hers, and therefore maybe she died that same night. I don't know. They jump to a lot of conclusions, and so far I'm not really liking anyone in here, and ultimately, it's not hooking me, so I'm just going to put it down. We're going to move on. We're going to get a new prompt. So currently I am reading my sequel book, and we are going to see if we can pull at least one more prompt, possibly 2, depending on what we get. The book that I'm currently reading, the audiobook, is fine. It's one of those books that I'm going to want to see where the story goes. It's set in this zombie world. The world kind of fell to this zombie virus. It's supposed to be a situation where everyone who dies becomes a zombie, whether you're bit by a zombie or or not, but there are things in the world that aren't quite moving according to plan, and I am curious about it. It's not something that I would feel my life was bereft if I did not finish the series, but I am curious about it. This is an author I really, really loved in the past. The trilogy that started with Kagan the Damned by Jonathan Mulberry is a series that I absolutely loved. I binged through. This one is an older YA series of his, so I'm not entirely shocked that I'm not loving it as much as I had hoped maybe, but I'm still having a good enough time. So that's kind of my midway thought. I know I said I wasn't going to do midway thoughts, but that's okay too. Okay, let's go ahead and figure out what the next prompt is going to be. All right, so I got for Around the Year in 52 Books, a book where the author has a common noun in their name. And then I do think I'm going to go ahead and choose one more while we're sitting here and while we're filming. Let's go ahead for it. Okay, this is an interesting one, and I think one that merits a stretch. For the 52 Book Club, it says the title is a spoiler. And here's the thing, I don't want to know if a title is spoiling me, so we are going to stretch, like I said. So for this one, I know what I want to do. And honestly, I was going to try to find a prompt to work for this anyway. At midnight tonight, I will get the download for the audiobook for Strength of the Few by James Islington. This is a book I am super, super, super highly anticipating. And honestly, I feel like there are things about this title that could be considered spoilery, depending on how you look at it. I'm not going to tell you how, because I don't want to spoil anything, but I can make a case in my own mind for why this could be tied to a spoiler. I think that's valid to say. So that one's easy, but let me see what I can do about the noun in the author's name, because I feel like that one's going to take a little more research. All right. I actually didn't have to go too far to find an option because I looked at the books that I gave Kylie to pick from and one of them will work. Diane Chamberlain, chamber, can be a noun. So we're going with that one. The Silent Sister. Again, this is the book where the main character has always believed that her older sister committed suicide as a teenager. When her father passes away and she goes through his stuff apparently, she finds out that her sister is actually alive under a new identity. So this works for my prompt. This works for a character confronting their past. I think this one is one that's been on my shelf for quite a while, so definitely one I want to get to. And then, like I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and stretch a little bit maybe and go with Strength of the Few by James Islington for my other prompt. And this one I think definitely would fit, assuming I can get it done, which is a little bit debatable. It's not a short audiobook and definitely not a book that I'm going to be multitasking too heavily, but it would work for the prompt for a character who's confronting their identity, their destiny, etc. I think all of that will definitely play out in this book if it lives up to expectations. So I'm really excited now for the journey my reading is about to take, and I will check in with you once I have some updates. Hello, I am back. I am in my PJs, took a shower, ready to just kind of sit in bed, read a little bit before I actually go to sleep tonight. I am making good progress on Strength of the Few. Even though my copy hasn't come, I've been doing the audiobook and I've been really, really loving it. I think I'm a little bit past, actually I don't know what percentage I'm at. It's Audible. You never know with them. But I have reached, or actually just finished chapter 20 and I'm loving the writing. I'm loving the characters. The settings we're getting, everything is just working really well for me. I'm buddy reading it with a few other people and trying not to go too fast getting through it, but definitely want to pick it back up. But in the meantime, last night while I was waiting for that to come out and before I fell asleep, before it came out, I started The Silent Sister by Diane Chamberlain, and I'm also having a good time with this one. Not gonna say I'm having as good a time with it, but it is very easy read. I actually made it to 57% in the book without meaning to, because it's just easy to kind of consume and be intrigued by, and so forth. So we're following a woman named Riley, and she is kind of the responsible child when her father passes away. She's going through his stuff. She's trying to get things sorted in terms of things he's left to people and so forth. It seems like they weren't particularly close because she doesn't really know what's been going on with him necessarily. So she's finding out new things about relationships he had and secrets he kept. She has a older brother who is struggling. He is, I think, a veteran. He's very reliant on substances, I think, alcohol at least. He's very bitter towards his his father. He doesn't want to be involved. He doesn't want anything that his father left behind for the family, but he's the older brother, so he has a little bit more history with the family, maybe. Riley was super, super young when her older sister apparently, supposedly, committed suicide. Now she's finding out from things her father left behind and from things that she's uncovering as she's looking into things that maybe that's not true, that maybe her sister survived. In the first chunk of the book, we are just following Riley. As we get further into the book, we start getting an additional POV and kind of a dual timeline thing going on, and I am finding both equally interesting. I am seeing the reasons why things happened as they did, but there are still questions in my mind with things, and we are getting slow reveals tied to that as we go. I'm finding this very engaging. I like the character development. I have questions about who is 100% reliable. I mean, Riley's memory is not reliable because she was just so young. She was raised in a family that basically pretended that her older sister Lisa didn't exist. It was something painful, therefore let's not address it and ignore it, and that's that. Her mother died fairly young. Her father, like I said, it seems like they weren't super, super close. The brother is very bitter against the family, and Riley is trying to engage with her brother a little bit to try to get some answers. She's also learning some things about her own past that she didn't know, and there's just a lot of moving parts in here, but I think it's being handled well in terms of kind of keeping things straight. I'm primarily reading this on audio. I did a little bit of print last night, but mainly today I listened to it while I was getting some other stuff done, and I'm not having any issues with keeping up with the different narrators, the different timelines, the different strings of mystery going on, so I think it's all being done really well, and I really like Diane Chamberlain's writing in general, so I'm really, really glad that I got to finally get to this one. So I'm gonna get back in bed and probably not make it through the whole book before I fall asleep tonight, but I will make a bigger dent in this and then see if I can finish it up tomorrow in between reading Strength of the Few. So I went to bed like I said I would. I did not, however, fall asleep before finishing my book like I said I would. So I am back because I have now finished The Silent Sister, and I enjoyed this. I did predict pretty much the majority of the twists in here. I don't think that really diminished my enjoyment of it, however. I think the character development was interesting. I like how it ended. I think the brother character, the one who is not doing great following the traumas of the war he was in and the injuries he had and so forth, was a little bit harder to get a read on, but our main characters in here for sure, I thought had a good kind of development and storyline and all of that. The father also, I wound up having more feelings for him toward the end. I kind of felt like there was a disconnect at the beginning and there were reasons for that. They weren't, I don't think, necessarily as estranged as I was thinking they were in the earlier stages of the book, so it took a little while to kind of figure out that the disconnect there was more about the fact he had secrets, and therefore, even though he and his youngest daughter have a good connection or had a good connection, there were things that he was keeping back from her for reasons, and whether they're good reasons or not. I think this would be a really interesting discussion book, actually, about the choices characters made and whether they made right decisions, wrong decisions, who knew what and when, and so forth. So I think overall, I think I'm giving this one a really solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And I also realized I forgot to say, I think that I did finish Flesh and Bone by Jonathan Mawberry, the zombie sequel that I was reading earlier today, which it was entertaining. I like the world. I like the fact that we're getting a bigger picture of what the wider world is as the story goes on. Is it still one that I think is super groundbreaking when it comes to zombie fiction? No, but still, it was a good multitasking book. It was an entertaining read, so that one's getting 3 stars from me. So for this readathon, the next prompts I believe drop Friday night, which means it's now Tuesday night, soon, very soon to be Wednesday morning. And that means, even though I'm going to be putting a lot of focus on Strength of the Few and trying to finish that before this vlog ends and the next prompts drop, I do have time for at least 1, maybe 2 more books. So I'm hoping I can get a good multitasking type of read in to add to this vlog. So let's go ahead and pull one more prompt. Okay, this one could be a challenge, and it's a prompt from Around the Year in 52 Books, and it's for a book with waves on the cover. And I'm kind of interpreting that as ocean waves or wavy lines even maybe could work for that. So let me look around, let me see what I might have. I know I just finished a book in my last vlog that would have worked perfectly for this prompt, but I'm not sure what I have currently. So let me look into that and be right back. Actually, I lied. I didn't even have to stand up. There was a book right behind the camera that was sitting there for whatever reason. I have no clue. That works. And that is The Unwedding by Ali Condi. This is a book that I picked up on Indie Bookstore Day this past year. Was it this past year? It was my chaotic reading blog where I was trying to celebrate Indie Bookstore Day, but also getting furniture delivered. So that must have been earlier this year. Anyway, it was from Pages in Manhattan Beach. And I don't really know much about this one. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, something lost, something wed, someone broken, someone dead. So we've got some sort of a wedding occasion, and we've got a mystery thriller type of a setup. We're following Ellery. She and her husband were supposed to spend their 20th wedding anniversary together at the resort at Broken Point in Big Sur, California, but now she's traveling solo. There's a wedding happening there, which kind of is rubbing salt in the wound, it sounds like, but then she finds the body of the groom floating in the pool, and then a mudslide takes out the road, leaving everyone trapped there, and someone else dies. So it sounds like a fun setup. Isolated setting, a mystery thriller, maybe kind of a one-by-one almost trope going on in here. I don't know, but this seems like a good multitasking contemporary mystery thriller type of read, and perfect for the grief and death prompt that I need for a side quest. So there you have it. Let's hope there's also some gray morality going on in here maybe for my team. So this is the next one, and of course Strength of the Few is still ongoing, so I will check in when I have thoughts. I am back with you again, and it's with another DNF. I think I started this last night, have listened to it a little bit more this morning. I'm about 20% of the way in. This one starts strong. It starts with the scene of Ellery finding the groom in the pool and rushing off to get help, and it seems like it may be going in a good direction. And then we flash back in time, and it's a lot of internal monologue from Ellery, which is valid. She's on what should have been her 20th wedding anniversary vacation, but she's on her own because her husband ended the marriage, and she's in her head a lot, which makes sense. We've got this wedding that's going on at this resort that winds up getting cut off from the world by a natural disaster, and then things start going wrong from there. But it's just meandering, and I've looked up some reviews from friends of mine, people I trust, and they talk about the middle getting worse and the end being very convoluted. And if I'm not connecting with it at the first 20%, it really doesn't sound like it's going to be a go for me. So I'm going to put this down. We're going to try one more prompt and see if we can get something with a little bit more success behind it. And yeah, that's where we're at. I need to get going to work, but I wanted to do this real quick so I have a book to take with me to work. Okay, here's hoping this is our lucky quarter. Okay, I feel like this is workable for a book published in 2021. So I think that one's going to take a bit of research. Actually, not too much research, because there is one on my TBR for the month that will work for this prompt, and I think it'll be a good one to do a little bit of multitasking to, not too much multitasking, but that is The Perfect Lie by Jo Spain. This is an author that I've really enjoyed in the past. She's an Irish author, I believe, and I've been wanting to get back and dig into her backlist a little bit. This is one of the final books that I need for my 25 in 25, and I didn't think this one had an audio, but it does have one out there. It's just not available at my library, but I do have credits to spend, so I'm willing to put one in on this one. We're following Erin. She opens the door to her husband's detective colleagues, and behind her, her husband walks out the window of their 4th floor apartment and jumps to his death. She is charged with his murder. So I'm very intrigued what's going on in this one and looking forward to finding out. Hopefully this is the success I'm wanting it to be. I made it just past halfway into The Perfect Lie last night. There is a part 2, which hits around 55% or so. I'm not going to be able to find it at the moment because I didn't put a bookmark in. But in any case, I figured that made sense for a stopping point. The story in this one, we are primarily following Erin, and she appears to be happily married to her detective husband. They're having a lovely morning. Then there's a knock at the door. She goes to answer it, and it's her husband's partner and some other police, and kind of says, "I'm sorry," and then looks over her shoulder, sees her husband. She turns around, sees her husband, and sees her husband walk out a window. And he commits suicide. There's no inclination, as far as she's aware, of what might have caused this. There haven't been any signs he's suicidal. There hasn't been anything going on that would cause him to do this. So she's really destroyed and also really wanting answers. And the police aren't backing her up as the widow of one of their own. She's learning that maybe there was something going on with him at work that maybe could have been a factor. And she's she's trying to get answers, but everyone's being very close-lipped. We are following Erin in 2 different timelines. In the most present timeline, we know she's been charged with murder, and that's in the synopsis. We don't know why yet. That may be the case. And following her in the timeline where she's just finding out and seeing him die and all of that, it certainly doesn't seem like she's a character who should be blamed for anything, as far as we know so far. There is a 3rd timeline in here, and that is 2017 at Harvard. And I'm not quite sure how this one is going to tie in. That timeline has a whole storyline with a sexual assault, someone trying to support a friend who's been through this in reporting it or doing something. So I'm very curious how that's going to wind up tying in to the present day. We do know that Erin has some things in her past. She's from Ireland. She's moved to, I believe this is in the United States. I'm sure it's probably set in, Long Island. Yes, Long Island. And she's moved here. She doesn't really have any family around her or much of a support network here aside from Danny's. Her husband's family has always been there for her, but now, of course, there's going to be something that comes between them. And we are slowly getting pieces of Erin's past and kind of what's gone on in the past. So whether that ties to the 2017 kind of timeline or if that ties to what happened to Danny, I don't know yet. But I am super intrigued. It's a really easy read to just kind of get into. I did a little bit of multitasking with it. I did a little bit of just being exhausted last night and laying in bed and listening to the audiobook of it. And I've done a little bit with the physical as well to kind of remind myself what the different timelines are. So I'm having a good time with this one. So we are potentially ending on a good note. I'm still making my way through Strength of the Few. I'm about 1/3 of the way through it. I'm losing confidence that I'll be done with it necessarily by the time the next prompts drop, because it is Thursday and the prompts drop in like 36 hours, let's say, roughly. So we'll see. My physical copy should come today, which will help a lot. So my goal today is definitely to finish this one up, and then I can put all my attention into Strength of the Few while I have the audio and the physical copy at the same time. But for now, I do have to keep getting ready, leave for work. It's been hard getting out of bed in the morning with it finally being cooler, and we're supposed to be getting some rain starting tonight. So it's definitely going to be lock myself in the house and read kind of weather. So that's all for now, and I'll let you know once I finish this. I'm back for a final update. I finished off The Perfect Lie by Joe Spain, and I really enjoyed this. I think this is an author who can really pull off kind of a surprise or a twist or pull something over the reader's eyes. And I think the way that it worked in here was really well done. Definitely check triggers on this one. There is a lot of talk about suicide. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about sexual assault and kind of the after effects of trauma and depression and mental health and a lot of different things like that going on in here. But I think they were well handled. I think that the writing was good. The character development was good. I started to kind of guess what direction, what twist was coming, but I still wasn't quite able to predict how exactly it was going to be pulled off, because some of the things going back and forth between the timelines, I could see where things were a little bit off or a little bit twisty, like intentionally so. Like, I think the author was doing well at leaving breadcrumbs that you could pick up if you wanted to. And overall, this one just really worked well for me. I think this is an author I definitely need to read more from. So this one I am giving a good solid 4 stars. And with that, I did want to report that I did in fact finish up Strength of the Few. My copy finally showed up as well. This was another solid 5 stars. There's not much I can say about this one other than I am eager for book 3. And with the way this was done, I think the storytelling was done in such a creative and unique way. I think the character development was really good. We meet a lot of new characters through here and I enjoyed them as well. Although I have to say that this is original kind of friend group, still highlight of the story for me. I did not quite get this done in time before the next prompt dropped, so I was not able to submit this as a side quest, but it turns out the new prompts that just dropped on Friday night had the main quest being a book where there's tension, where there's stakes, and this book absolutely fulfilled that. So when I finished it up yesterday morning, I'm now able to submit this for the main quest for our next book, so I can just launch right into side quests for this new leg. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap this vlog up here. Let me know in the comments below, what have you been reading? What has been the highlight of your week? Absolutely, Strength of the Few is going to be a highlight for me for this month, 100%. I am really looking forward to my next week of reading. Getting to jump right into side quests leaves me lots of options to get to things that I'm excited to read, and I will be continuing at least one more vlog for this readathon. If you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, leave me some sort of pyramid or triangle, whatever exists, emoji for Strength of the Few. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're you're interested in more of my readathon reading, more of my book thoughts, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.